Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you a pretty cool way on how to decorate a Bouche Noel or a jelly roll. You know the Christmas roll cakes, the Roulade, whatever it is you call it, wherever you live. If it's your first time stopping by, please feel free to smash the subscribe button and do not forget to like. That helps me out a lot with the algorithm. Now what I have here is a sheet cake. I'll leave the link in the description for the recipe below. Feel free to check it out. And I have a mixed berry jam that I'm going to use. It's a pretty simple recipe, but what I'm showing you basically is how I decorate it, which I think is pretty cool, so stay tuned. Let's go. Now I'm going to carefully remove the sponge cake from the sheet pan so we can start assembling the jelly roll. Alright, pick it up from the sides. Make sure you carefully peel it off. You don't want to tear it. It's pretty pliable, but just be careful. Alright, there it is. Down. Alright, perfect. Now I'm going to split it up into two parts because I want to use half to give to a friend of mine and half is going to be for my household. So I'm just going to cut it right down the middle. Alright, carefully. I didn't do a good job with that, but I hope you get the gist of it. Alright, perfect. Once that's done, jelly. Now what I want to do is I want to apply jelly, but I'm going to leave a border, probably about an inch to a quarter of an inch, just to help me roll, to tuck it in as hard as I can. Alright, and I'll leave a jelly recipe in the description box below too, so feel free to check it out as well. It's a homemade jelly, which is pretty good. It's delicious. Alright, spread it out nice and even, take your time. We don't want to rip the cake at all. And whatever you do, when it's done baking, do not roll the sheet cake. Let it sit in the sheet pan until you need to use it. You might feel tempted because usually that's what a lot of people do, but for this particular recipe you can't do that. So just keep that in mind. Real tight. Now that's another reason why I left the border, to kind of give me some leverage. Alright. Carefully peel it off the parchment paper. Alright, perfect. Now we're going to tuck it in and gently press. Alright, and keep going. Want a nice tight roulade. Perfect. Now I'm going to pipe with white chocolate ganache. I'll put a recipe in the description box below. Feel free to check it out. Then I'm going to smooth it out. Like I said, I want to use a chocolate pattern. I'm going to show you how I do that in a moment. So we're going to pipe the ganache on top of it, smooth it off the cake. Then we're going to get it back in the freezer to set. Alright, let's get to it. Oh shit, I'm using the wrong tip. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Alright, perfect. Here's my acetate. Now using acetate, I'm going to drag the cream across, nice and slow. Making sure. Now we're going to set up the work surface so I can make the cocoa butter shell to cover the cake. Now what I'm doing is I'm greasing the marble counter. I just have like a washcloth and I put a little bit of oil on it and I'm just working the surface. That way whatever I put on here is able to stick, be acetate, parchment paper, or plastic wrap. The layer that I just greased with plastic wrap. I hope you guys got a clear view of this. That's why we grease the layer. That way I'm able to put the plastic wrap on without any problems. And I am having problems. I'm gonna lay it down as flat as possible. And the reason I'm using plastic wrap is I want this to be able to lay directly flat on top of the cake. Acetate could do the same thing, but it might leave air bubbles. But this being super thin should lay on nice and flat without any problems. You just want to make sure you get it as flat as possible. So take your time and pull it all the way to the edges. Make sure it's nice and flat. There's no air bubbles, because whatever air bubbles you leave in there are going to pop up in your design. You'll see in a minute. You just have to be patient. There's no other way around this. Patience is key. So I'm pulling it from end to end, making sure there's no air bubbles. Perfect. I'm almost there. And this is damn near perfect. Whatever indents are in there, I can live with. Alright. Perfect. Oh shit. Almost been in there, bro. Alright. That's that. Now to make the cocoa butter shell, I have white chocolate that I'm gonna tamper off. So I have 100 grams of white chocolate, another 100 grams of white chocolate, split into 4s. So I'm gonna melt this, then I'm gonna gradually add white chocolate that is unmelted in quarters. So it's split up into 25 grams, and I have 100 grams here. So I melt this completely, then I gradually add this. And to that, I have cocoa butter that I'm gonna color, help color the shell too. I'm gonna melt the cocoa butter. So I brought water to a boil on high heat. I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna place the chocolate right on top and let it steam until it melts. So I basically just let it sit here until it melted completely. Want to make sure we don't have any lumps in it before we start adding the chocolate that's at room temperature. That way it all melts completely and tempers to the perfect temperature. We're looking to get it to a temperature of 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, now we're going to start adding chocolate in quarters and gradually melting it in. As you can see, the first batch is completely melted in there. Then we're going to add the second batch. And you want to keep adding the chocolate until it's all finished. And by that time, the chocolate should have tempered to perfect temperature. And this method's called the seeding method. I have a video that goes into a lot more, that goes a lot more in depth on how to temper chocolate. I'll drop the link in the description box below. Please feel free to check it out. Alright. And more chocolate. There we go. So you get the concept. So I'm seeding the chocolate in gradually. We're gonna have to temper the cocoa butter. Now I have a total of 200 grams of cocoa butter. So I'm gonna melt off 100 grams right here on the double boiler. Alright, steaming bath, turn it off and let it melt completely. Then we're gonna tamper in another 100 grams of cocoa butter that's set at room temperature. You want to stir this every now and then just to make sure it doesn't burn, but if the... Alright, with the cocoa butter completely melted, we're going to add the other one that's room temperature. Same thing, we're going to gradually add it until it all melts in there. Alright, we're looking for an ideal temperature of around 86 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh. Alright, here we go. And you can also get this in chips. You don't have to get the blocks. I got the blocks because they were cheaper. You know, just trying to save a little bit of money. Alright, almost there. Now we're going to paint cocoa butter on top of the plastic wrap that I laid down here earlier. I know it's impossible to see it. So just follow the paintbrush. Alright, so I'm just going across like that. Real simple pattern. I'm trying to perfect. At least now I know where I start and where I end. Just keep painting over it. We're gonna go over and over a bunch of times. And this is going to turn into a chocolate shell that we're going to wrap around our cake. It will make sense in a little bit, hopefully. carefully remove the plastic wrap from the marble counter so we can start laying down the white chocolate. So be very, very careful. I almost fucked it up, so take your time. Yeah, it was too soon. It started cracking on me. Down the acetate that we cut to the same exact dimensions as the plastic wrap. Make sure it's nice and level on the surface. Then once that's done, we're gonna pick up our plastic wrap that we coated with cocoa butter, and we're gonna place it right on top of the acetate. All right, perfect. Back and forth. All right, we're gonna put the cake dead smack in the middle and wrap the chocolate shell around it.